Immaculate, Wambui, partnership lead, Grown to Help, and also a social entrepreneur here in Kenya. I have a company, Emmaculate Agro Farm Limited, for agriculture. And above that, I'm born again. Is it fair to say that here?
Hello.
So, I'm your moderator today for the fireside chat. So what do you understand when you hear fireside chat? You know, I see some of us are so rigid. It's something which will include all of us. So if you are the corner, you need to be fully participating in this, right? That's why it is a fireside chat, so that all of us can be included and you feel that you have participated fully. That's why I'm asking, are you feeling where you're supposed to be? You are? Yeah, right. So I want to welcome I don't want to call them panelists because I want this to be kind of a conversation where they'll feel comfortable to share their experience and also to share their knowledge in the topic we have today. So, and also for yourself, put yourself in this theme today and this topic. Associate it with your own experience. Associate it with your own, maybe, expertise and all that, so that you can be able to work together with them. Are we okay? Yeah, so don't be surprised if I say, the lady in a yellow top there, please. There's no one in a yellow top. So when I say the lady in a yellow top, please, just tell us something about what we are discussing. So feel comfortable, right? My panelists today, they are all youths. Clap for them. So it means they'll totally speak their mind. They'll totally speak their, yeah, so just be open-minded, right? You can see the faces. Do you see anybody? How do they look? Young. And also if you're there and you feel you're not young, please, at this moment, be young at heart, so that you can deep dive into whatever will be going on, right? So I'll invite them here, and I'll start with Mitchelle Katete. Mitchelle Katete. So Mitchelle is from the Collaborative Center for Gender Development, and she'll be taking us through public policy. I'll go through her bio. Please, you have not welcomed her. All right. So Mitchelle Katete is Gender and Development and Public Policy Specialist with over 5 years of experience coordinating multi-sectoral programs on gender equality and social inclusion across Kenya. She has led the design, coordination, and implementation of multi-sectoral programs in collaboration with government institutions, women rights organizations, grassroots actors, driving transformative change through inclusive and evidence-informed development approaches. Mitchelle has been instrumental in supporting national and county governments to develop and implement gender-responsive policies and frameworks and embed equality and accountability within government systems. She has also spearheaded the institutional strengthening of women rights organizations and grassroots movement, enhancing their capacity in engaging in evidence-based advocacy, influence policy processes, and deliver sustainable gender transformative results. In her current role at the Collaborative Center for Gender and Development, she plays a pivotal role in advancing policy advocacy and strengthening institutional capacities to ensure that youth and women voices are prioritized, are meaningfully integrated into governance and development agendas. Her work also extends to addressing the nexus between gender, climate change, economic justice, where she's championed the application of equity-centered frameworks across development sectors to drive inclusive and sustainable transformation. So, what have you understood there? A lot. What have you understood there? Yes? Expertise, experience. So we have the right person here, right? Yeah, so welcome. And she's very smart. Have you told her that? You've told her that? So I welcome our next panelist, who is Foday Bangura. Please welcome. Hi. So I have interacted with him for some time now, since the last time we had an online session with him. He's maybe the youngest in the panelists, so if you don't clap well, he may not come. So welcome. And he's a proud Sierra Leonean, and he's the second-year undergraduate student in entrepreneur leadership with his, they are not done yet. They have not yet done what you want.
Until you give me the permission.
All right. Please have a seat. So Foday Bangura is a proud Sierra Leonean who is a second-year undergraduate student in entrepreneurial leadership with his mission in the Grad Challenge of Governance at the African Leadership University in Kigali, Rwanda. Before university, he was a national vice president of Children's Forum Network, which is Sierra Leone's umbrella child-led advocacy organization under the Ministry of Gender and Children's Affairs. He started his advocacy journey at the age of 10. At the age of 10, when did you start yours? 4. Someone is challenging. 4. All right. And he was nicknamed the child that knows it all by members of the African Committee of Experts on the Rights and Welfare of the Child and the United Nations Committee on the Rights of the Child. At 17, he co-authored the Children's Declaration Appeal of the New Global Financing Pact during the new Global Financing Pact called forth by the President Emmanuel Macron and the French government. Foday is currently one of the world's youngest climate negotiators, and his lifelong mission is to inspire ethical leadership to promote sustainable development in Sierra Leone and Africa. Let's welcome him. Thank you so much. And our next will be Veronica Njeri. Veronica Njeri, please. Please, let's welcome her. Let's welcome her. So Veronica Njeri is a specialist in educating fellow peers and a mentor. She is skilled in computer studies and driving. She's based in Nairobi, and she loves hiking, nature, and also loves to help others and learn. Please welcome her. So for our last panelist, I've not heard you welcoming Veronica Njeri well. Welcome. So for my panelists, you can be taking a glass of water. So for our last panelist, we have Dr. Roy. Dr. Roy, so please welcome. No, I'll do a lot of injustice. I'll just do a lot of injustice in that. So let me try. Dr. Hrvoje Vinja. That's right? Please welcome. So, Dr. Roy is Director of Global BD&L Transactions and Contract Management at Boehringer Ingelheim in Vienna, Austria. He holds a PhD in molecular biology from University of Zagreb and has extensive experience in business development, alliance management, and contract negotiation within the pharmaceutical industry. Dr. Roy has led cross-functional teams in executing, licensing, and collaboration deals, and has managed strategic partnership across Europe, Latam, MENA, and Asia. He's also a co-founder of Together Women Can, a non-profit organization focused on cervical cancer prevention and women's empowerment in Africa. Prior to his industry roles, he conducted postdoctoral research in immunology and Immunology in Croatia, Germany, and the USA. Dr. Roy is passionate about creating sustainable social and environmental change and enjoys mountaineering and cycling in his free time. Please let's welcome him. So this is my panelist, and of course, I need an extra chair. I need an extra chair. So, no, please, don't stand. I know something will be organized soon. So, welcome to our panelists for Reimagining food security, loss and damage, and just transition through an equity lens. Now, thank you, let me take this. Before I engage our panelists, I want to ask from us, what do you understand by one, food security? Another one, what do you understand by loss and damage? And another one, what do you understand by just transition? Those three terms. I'm sure some of us don't understand, right? So we need to understand what that means, right? Yeah, so what do you understand by that? When you hear food security, from us, I can have someone with a mic going around, and someone to tell me what do you understand by food security, what do you understand by another person loss and damage, and another person just transition. And then our panelists will tell us whether what you thought is what it is. We are not going to slaughter a bull we don't know what it is, right? Yeah. We need to understand. Someone? There's someone here, someone there.
Thank you. I want to answer the question on the food security. That food security means enough food for everyone in the country. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please say your name.
And Ian Mwendwa.
Ian, let's give a clap to Ian. I said we are going to interact a lot, right? There's someone else? Yes?
Yeah, thank you. Maybe just to add on to what Ian has said, in addition to being available, then it also needs to be accessible to everyone, and also it needs to be of good quality. So food security is ensuring that one, food is available, it is accessible, and it is also of good quality to everyone. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Your name?
Rachel is my name.
Rachel. Let's start with our names, right?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Rachel. So available and quality and accessible. Right, so I want now to tell us about loss and damage.
Thank you. My name is Holy Sid. I'm from the African Leadership University. And I think loss and damage, it's when either it can be goods, loss of life, it can be property, it can be clothes, it can even be a business when it's completely, it has no value of any sort. Yep.
Thank you so much for that. Then let's have the last one to tell us about just transition. That is not, nobody knows about that. Can you imagine? Yeah, there's some here. Please just put your hands up high. There's someone here.
I think just transition is a matter of making sure that things are able to move from one place with another with the consideration of all differentiation factors such as gender, class, ethnicity, and all those other components that differentiate us. So just transition is making sure that all those components are included in the process.
All right. Yeah?
Okay, maybe to add this Just a transition is like adapting to something, and mitigation, like when we are talking about damages on climate change and whatsoever.
Thank you so much. So I can see in the room, thank you. In the room, we have an idea of what's happening. Food security is much understood. Loss and somehow, just transition, I don't know, out of 10, 2, 1. All right, so my panel will tell me whether the team you have here, your participants are able to understand what we are discussing. And of course, I really want they understand so that they are able to be included, because the objective of today is to unpack how gender, youth, and social inclusion intersect with food security, loss and damage, and just transition. So we unpack, you remember our conversation in the morning about? What was our conversation in the morning? I can tell you they are just learning and forgetting. So now we are going to see how gender, youth, and social inclusion intersect with what? Food security, loss and damage, and just transition. And then next, after that, we see whether is your perspective, is your voice, is what you think about all that included in climate policy spaces. What you think about, your perspective, your voices, your ideas, are they taken into consideration too when we are coming to climate policy spaces? Would you love that? Yes, and then the afternoon session will go much deeper. So this one lays the foundation of what you're going to discuss in the afternoon session. That's why you really need to understand what we are discussing about. Otherwise, in the afternoon session, you'll just be floating. Yeah? So, and then the next objective is we draw lessons from lived experiences. So we have Veronica and Njeri here. She'll tell us her lesson from her real life experience, what she has experienced from what we'll be discussing about loss and damage. And then the last one, we are going to reflect on key equity gaps and power dynamics to inspire inclusive, transformative approaches that inform future advocacy and policy processes. So I hope you have got all the 3 objectives, because by the end of this session, I'm going to ask whether we have achieved our objectives, and if we have not achieved, how do we intend to achieve them, right? So welcome to my panelists. I'm going to start with Mitchelle. She's going to talk about institutional policy perspective. So I would love you to introduce that and tell our participants what is institutional policy perspectives, and just tell us like in 1 minute all about what you understand by that and what you do.
Good afternoon, everyone, and I'm so glad to be in rooms with youths as well as the allies that are not youths. It shows that there's mentorship here that is also happening. So I'll just begin briefly by stating what CCGD does, even as I dive deep into the question that you've asked me. So CCGD is a non-governmental organization that seeks to champion gender equality and non-discrimination, and we have been doing this for 28 years now, and our aim is to ensure that there is gender equality among women, men, boys, and girls. And we do this through different strategies, and I'll just summarize them in 4 strategies. The first one is demonstrating policy solutions to county and national government. What we also do is advocate for new policies, as well as reviewing of existing policies. And how we back up our policy advocacy is through research. So we also conduct numerous research that inform our policy advocacy, as well as monitoring, evaluation, and learning that helps us incorporate emerging trends in existing policy. And then lastly, what we also do is capacity building of duty bearers to be able to implement gender responsive planning within the different departments that they operate in, both at the county and at the national government. So when you talk about institutional policies, we are talking about strategies and policies that exist within institutions. And we have different institutions that vary from the county government. We have institutions at the national government, as well as institutions when you talk about even women rights organizations. Yes.
Thank you so much. So from the part of the CCGD, right, work, what institutional or policy barriers limit the integration of gender and inclusion into climate and food security frameworks?
All right, so when we talk about the institutional...
Can I repeat that for your sake? Because she's a fast learner. So the question is, from what she has told us what she does and the organization does, what institutional or policy barriers limit the integration of gender and inclusion into climate and food security frameworks? So please just listen to that, because you'll go ahead to discuss that later, right? Yeah.
Thank you, Emma, for that question. So when you talk about the institutional gaps, or rather the policy gaps that inhibit gender inclusion in climate change as well as food security, I'd like to start in terms of policy gap implementation. Now, as we all know, Kenya really makes great policies. Like in paper, we do have great policies that do exist, such as the National Climate Change Policy and the Climate Change Act that incorporates and recognizes the intersection between gender and climate change, as well as the need of inclusion of youths as well as women in strategies that address climate change. However, when it comes to implementation, there's a huge gap in terms of the operational guidelines that govern these policies, as well as measurable indicators that are able to help us understand who is benefiting from these climate change actions, and if truly women, youths, and also marginalized groups are also benefiting from the strategies that have been outlined in these policy documents, as well as there are no designated budget lines that actually ensure that these policies are able to translate from commitments, that is paper, into actual results that benefit women, youths, and marginalized groups. And then also when we talk about policies, also in terms of gap, I find that policy makeups are not really appreciative in terms of the indigenous knowledge that communities have when it comes to food preservation and also climate adaptation. So when policymakers develop these policies, they do not integrate this indigenous knowledge, and in many cases, this knowledge lies within women because they are the ones who preserve, who are the ones who do the food security, food preservation, and climate adaptation. So if they are unable to incorporate this indigenous knowledge, it means that it's not serving the communities. The community. Again, when we talk about also the policy gaps that exist, it is also in terms of women's inclusion when it comes to the development of these policies. Now, in many cases, when policies are developed, they are developed for the people, not with the people. Policies, especially even around climate change, they are usually developed in the mind of women and youth becoming beneficiaries, not realizing that these are also the designers as well as the implementers of these kind of policies. So therefore, when the voices of women and youth lack in this policy formulation process, it means that the solutions are not locally, or rather they do not address the priorities as well as the needs of the women and youth. And then something else when it comes to policy and also policy processes is the technical expertise, or rather rather the technical languages that encompass policies. They carry a lot of legal terms, so in many cases, it's not easily understood by community at the community level. So even them being able to participate in such engagements becomes very difficult. Even in this space of policy development, there are certain technical terms that also I have to internalize and understand what of the community members, the young women in the community who perhaps have low literacy level, again, because of the cultural and social barriers that limit them to accessing education. So with the technical expertise, especially when it comes to policy participation processes, women only become tokenist in the sense that their participation isn't meaningful. They are unable to provide insights in this policy because, number one, they do not understand the terms are too technical for them. So that is in terms of the policy gaps. And then another institutional barrier that actually also limits gender inclusion is gender responsive budgeting. Number one, climate financing hardly reaches the community, especially women and girls, and more so grassroots organization, youth-led organization, as well as women-led organization, they do not benefit from funding. So this means they have very limited funding to be able to implement climate action solutions that are locally led. When you also talk about gender responsive budgeting, just to put it into clear terms so that you understand, gender responsive budgeting means being able to budget in realizing the different needs of women, men, boys, and girls. So you are able to incorporate these needs in the budgeting process. So when it comes to county budgeting, because again, that is where most of the money is because of devolution. So at county levels, number one, there is now either no budget allocated in the implementation of climate action and even gender justice solution, or there are limited budgets that are set aside for such kind of implementation. But even with the budgets that have been set aside, there are no accountability mechanisms that actually measure how have these funds been utilized. What are the impacts that have been realized from this gender responsive budgeting? So the lack of accountability mechanism, as well as indicators that measure the impact, limit gender inclusion at the county level. And then something else that also I'd like to mention in terms of institutional barrier is capacity of duty bearers. When I talk about duty bearers, I'm talking about ministries, departments, more so I like to address at the county level, because for CCGD, most of our implementation takes place in diverse counties. So when it comes to capacity, the capacity knowledge of duty bearers, it is very limited, especially when it comes to gender responsive planning and budgeting. So you get to realize these county stakeholders, they are tasked to design and to program solutions that aid and support the community. However, they lack the adequate gender responsiveness to be able to come up with tailored solutions that benefit men, women, and even girls and boys in the community. So therefore, gender just becomes more of a buzzword that is used within these departments rather than principles that guides in terms of budgeting, decision-making, accountability mechanism. Moving on, when we talk about also capacity, the capacity of duty bearers, it is also their capacity to do gender responsive budgeting. Most of them do not, they do have the intent of developing these policies that support and bridge the gap in climate change and also food security, but they also lack the mechanism of being able to develop gender responsive budgeting within their different budgeting cycles. So with this particular gap, you get to realize most of the resources do not get to those who need it the most. And these are women, these are youths, marginalized groups like PWDs, as well as refugees. And then just to conclude with the last barrier, and I would like to tie it to structural barriers that are intertwined with the institutional barriers, it's the heavy burden of unpaid care work. Now, the unpaid care work is mostly it's mostly on women and young girls. They're the ones who take part in unpaid care work. What do I mean by unpaid care work? I'm talking about children, taking care of children, taking care of the sick, domestic work such as fetching water, such as cooking. So you get to realize their time consumption when it comes to unpaid care work and domestic work limits their participation in public forums. It limits their participation in leadership as well as decision making, unlike men. And then something else, just to add on to the social barriers, is the component of GBV. So in climate situation, GBV is usually very amplified, and unfortunately it is women and young girls who are very vulnerable in terms of experiencing GBV. So when GBV not only just limits their safety, but it also limits their participation in decision-making forums. So therefore, in summary, and to just conclude, this question is, number one, without policies that translate into action, without institutions that integrate gender responsive, and also with structural barriers that are not integrated into these strategies that are developed for climate change, it means that gender inclusion in climate change and food security becomes rhetorical. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have you heard a full lecture, right? Have you taken notes? Have you understood? She has dived even to the next session, right? So I know you have a lot of questions. Thank you so much. So we are going to go to Foday, and before that, do you feel you are included in the policy, or they make it for you or with you? For you, not with you? Okay, right. So Foday, we are going to get to know about loss and damage and just transition. Please tell us more about that.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Abai, everyone. I'm Kenyan by three things. Chair, please permit me to say them. One is my dreadlocks. I'm Kenyan by it. Two is my hat. I love Kenya very much. And you can see the Kenyan band on my hands. I've worn this for 2 years without removing it. And three, it's how many times I've come to Kenya. I mean, in the last 2 years, I've come to Kenya so many times I can't count. So those are the three things that makes me Kenyan. Maybe the next time I will naturalize. Okay, that being said, permit me to take you through what loss and damage and just transition about by starting with data given by the IPCC, which is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. They are an expert group of scientists and lawyers who study what's the effect of the climate crisis. Yeah, so it is stated hurricanes and disasters have caused damage of $210 billion by 2020, and FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, stated that disaster-related losses amounted to about $280 billion in 2021, and then since 1980. Total losses due to such disaster has been about 5.2 trillion United States dollars. And of course, if the world goes beyond 2 degrees, the frequency of hurricanes and extreme weather events will increase by 36%, which will increase the annual damage exceeding $11.7 trillion. So I gave this data to actually give you a clear picture of what loss and damage is about. Because many times when you are in a platform, people ask, why are they talking about loss and damage? Why don't they mitigate the crisis? Why don't they adapt to the crisis? But sometimes I have to tell you, the unfortunate part is that there are some effects of the crisis that goes beyond mitigation and adaptation. They cannot work. They are irreversible effects that have already happened. So therefore, the idea of loss and damage has to come in. And many people, when they talk about loss and damage, they just think about the fund. But loss and damage goes way beyond the fund, which, I mean, the fund started in 2021 in Egypt, Sharm el-Sheikh, COP22. But loss and damage, the conversation started in 2013 in Warsaw, in Poland. That is to say, they established a whole institution called the Warsaw International Mechanism on Loss and Damage. So this institution actually exists to support countries in terms of knowledge, in terms of expertise, in terms of resource mobilization, and of course, in terms of mobilization amongst state parties of the Paris Agreement. And many of you might know the Paris Agreement, of course, is the international agreement that was done in 2015 by all member states of the UNFCCC, which is the United Nations Convention on Climate Change, which is the binding global agreements that exist to make sure member states, all countries around the world, parties to that convention, contribute towards mitigation, adaptation, and of course, more now on social justice, gender justice on the issue, and so many more. And that's what loss and damage is about, basically. And then if we talk about just transition, just transition is about how do we green the economy, right? So it's not just about how do we create decent jobs, how do we create green jobs, how do we create jobs that's, that are safe for our people. But it's about greening an entire economy. And an entire economy goes beyond more than jobs. It goes to culture. It goes to how we socialize. It goes to our norms, our values, our beliefs. So just transition, somebody said, in the question that the moderator asked, somebody said just transition is about moving along with fairness. And indeed, that's one of the most important terms in the definition of just transition, according to the International Labour Organization, is about fairness. So how do we move? How do we change our economy? How do we decarbonize, but rather focus on fairness? How do we include everyone? How do we create safe space for everyone? And how do we also leave our biases behind as we transition? Thank you. That's what I would say to that.
Thank you so much, Foday, for that. Now we understand about just transition and loss and damage. Which is the biggest gap, still to you, which is the biggest gap for youth inclusion in that?
Okay, I think this is actually a very tough question.
Please
but
just take 2 minutes.
No, it's fine. So first thing first is there's a whole knowledge gap between the matured and young people when it comes to loss and damage, or in fact, generally, when it comes to technical knowledge on the climate crisis. Yeah, this knowledge gap has existed to a point wherein in negotiation rooms, in places where the decisions are being made on the climate crisis, young people are not there. One, because of course, the lack of technical knowledge. And one thing I always say is that, for me, I think the older generation is scared of the younger generation. I don't know why. But they are, because knowledge transfer is so difficult for a young person to be able to understand the technicality about the climate crisis. It's something that is so hard, right? So that's one, the knowledge gap. And then two, as well, is the fact that countries are not willing to really educate and train the next generation of young people who could really contribute towards the technical part of the climate crisis. For an example of this, how many countries do you know in the world that has, let's say, a whole curriculum on climate change within schools, not even going to university to study them, but within primary schools or secondary schools to teach these kids about what the climate crisis is about and how these processes happen and how decisions are made in those rooms, right? That's another thing. And then three is that the processes in which decisions are made is very rigid. It is rigid, it is not flexible, and therefore, it's so difficult to actually get young people into those rooms, right? For example, there are certain conversations, they'll tell you that it's just negotiators or UNFCCC focal points of countries. And you cannot find anyone that is 35 or below that is a UNFCCC technical focal point in the entire planet. So that tells you there is so much gap that exists between the younger generation and the older generation in terms of knowledge transfer, in terms of opportunities, and in terms of how they exchange ideas. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So do you feel that the older generation is not ready to transfer knowledge to you? There's someone who said, give us the seats. So it seems like they feel that, however much the older generation want to put it like, we are giving you, but you are not showing us you want the seats. The younger generation feels that you are not ready to transfer knowledge. Are you feeling insecure? That's the question you should ask them, right? Okay, we're going to go to Dr. Roy, please, because I want to finish with Veronica. She has a real life experience. She has to share with that within a very short time. So we are going to go to Dr. Roy about Together Women Can in food security and women empowerment. Please tell us about Together Women Can, and also how is Together Women Can addressing the intersection between women empowerment and food security in climate affected communities. I repeat. Thank you.
Well, thank you all, for taking the time to listen to us and to me. I'm not an expert in this field, but merely a volunteer, and I'm sure there are many more of you who are well established in all the topics we are talking here. Now, Together Women Can is an organization made by volunteers with an aim, or at least intention, to bring awareness about cervical cancer and fight or help fight cervical cancer, which takes, I believe, around 5,000 lives yearly in Kenya only, right? I'm not talking about the African continent. So we had until now 2 projects in Uasin Gishu County and Homa Bay, where we tested, I would say, around almost 5,000 women for cervical cancer, and committed to treat, I would say, more than 25 women who were diagnosed with cervical cancer. This is one thing. One thing is getting there and test someone and then treat women, but this doesn't solve the problem. The disease will be there, lack of awareness will still be there. We are small. We were thinking from 2 positions. One, how can we help that this problem at least gets a visibility and gets solved to a certain extent. And from another standpoint of donors, which demanded that we have a sustainable part in our projects, right? Because after you do the testing, you mobilize the community, you educate the community health volunteers, sisters, doctors. Then after the screening is over, there is a gap. So we, as a part of our project, we implemented economic empowerment part, especially for women, and in close collaboration with our partner, Wawa Kenya, in Homa Bay, established or still establishing a chicken farm, which we hope the chicks will survive, enough to create profit, which we aim to invest in local community, especially financially empower women to make change within their families, within their communities. In short.
Thank you so much. I'm almost feeling like I'm the one who is in the fireside chat only, because we needed a lot of time, right?
No. Excuse me. One other thing is, we do talk about food security, right? Yeah. One thing I forgot, and it is crucial for this topic, is sex for fish practice, which we were very bothered once we heard that this still exists. And this is actually an example of where the system crashes to the point that women have to be forced in order to get food to apply this kind of behavior. And this is very morally degrading, economically degrading, and in the end it affects also the health status of the whole region. We know that Homa Bay was one of the pioneers in the HIV infections, and such a behavior definitely doesn't help to it, right? So with giving women power, economic power, we try to enable them to find other sources of income and access other food sources, and not only fish that they get from small fisheries that are gender dominated by men.
Thank you so much. So it is sad, right? It is sad that women have to engage into maybe sexual in exchange for food. It's very sad. So that's something to think about. So thank you so much. We are going to go to Veronica and Njeri, who is going to give her a real life experience. Are you okay? Please welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Veronica Njeri. I'm a young mom from Korogocho. Korogocho is one of the largest slums here in Kenya. That's where I've been born and raised, and here I am. I'm a victim of last year's floods that occurred last year. It was one of my worst moments in life. I lost my niece. She was playing by the river, and unfortunately, she slid in the river, and until today, we haven't found the body. We also lost our house, since the government had said that every house within 30 meters should be demolished. So we were very, very near by the river, so we had to move. We didn't have a place to go, so we went to a nearby church together with other people in the community. This organization of Tika came to our help. They are the one who aids us basic needs like food, and even some small amount for getting shelter, like 3 months. Yes.
Thank you. So from your experience, Njeri, how would you tell the policymakers who are here about climate disasters and how they uniquely affect women's lives and leadership? And what would be your message to them?
Okay, so what I would say is that maybe they can build some safer shelters, since not everyone got shelter last year. Maybe some went to, maybe some girls to their boyfriends, and unfortunately, it didn't end up well. Some were raped, maybe. And they were just needed rescue, but that's what happened to them. So if maybe they can build safer shelters for us, and even I will urge some NGOs, stakeholders to come together and build, and maybe to empower women and even girl children in this society which are poor, so that they can be educated, so that when these things occur, this type of thing occurs again, they can know what to do.
All right. Thank you so much. That's a call to action, right? Yeah. So there's some still people who don't have safe shelters, and some girls went into early marriages because they don't know where to go. The houses have been carried away by water. They don't have maybe any family members. So if you're in that area, that's a call to action, right? How many minutes can I be given to ask questions from the 10? Thank you. So 4 for asking, 6 for answering. Let me first, please, let's have your question. Just say the panelist you want to answer, and the panelist to take at least 1.5 minutes. 1.5 minutes, please. I want each question to one panelist, so that means 4 questions. All right, let's start. Each one row each.
Thank you so much. My name is Hope Nankunda from Raising Teenagers Uganda, and I want to, comment on the final panelists, to extend my sincere thought and feeling about what happened to you and the strength of you coming here to share your stories. I think for me, it is a call to action for everyone in the room that climate change and climate justice is our responsibility. When she says that her sister was washed away by the river and they all shifted to the church, my question to everyone is in the room is that how often do we react to disaster? When a call comes and they say this environment has been swept away by water, do we ever think about someone who had everything and in a blink of an eye has nothing completely? So I want to challenge the room that we all take action, that when such things happen in our communities, in our countries, pick those extra things you have in your home and give them out without thinking twice. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So that's a call to action. A question?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is Rhoda Mungina from Sulemo. And she's asked how many of us respond. We were lucky to be one of the responders in 2023 for the floods that happened in Kisumu. And I can say the situation is not good. And we managed to offer a psychological first aid to the victims, but beyond that, nothing. Now, I'll go back to the institutional strengthening policies and the duty bearers. We have what we call the World Climate Change Planning Committees. And funny enough, they are funded. They have money. But then you find that there is a word that we use in Kenya, kwa ground vitu ni different. Find that half of the time the projects that are being funded, they do not have any direct impact to the people. So as young people, as youth, because now we can see that the public participations are not working for us. What more can we do to ensure that our voices are heard and that there's accountability in terms of this money that is being sent down to the grassroots is really being used for what it is for?
Thank you. Next question. Please just note, we'll answer that. Next question to another panelist.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lina Mlongo from the Hijabi Mentorship Program. Okay, my question goes to this, because we've been having a lot in Kwale County when it comes to public participation. Many young people are not included in terms of policy making, in terms of everything. They usually say when they invite people for public participation, they have their own. So it is not that easy for implementation to be done. Many young people do not have knowledge in anything. So to me, I'm calling for action that all young people should be included in that policy making. In terms of budget, they should understand. And all us who are here, we should ensure that at least we mentor young people so that they can come and be brave and speak about these climate issues. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That gives us a foundation for Advocacy Lab discussion, right? I feel that should go there. Do you have any question? Yes, there's someone there. There, behind you.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
My name is Oscar, founder and CEO of Hope to Live charity organization based in Kisumu. Mine is not a question, but call to action. Especially, I heard her story.
Can you cut it short for like 1 minute?
Yes, sorry. There's just a lot that needs to be done, both at the community level as well as in the government. As an organization, we've been trying to help the communities, especially in Nyando, who are affected by the floods every now and then. But you find that when we bring the solution, it is not sustainable. And we brought some of the sustainable solution, but the community cannot do them because they need money to spend on it. For example, we did an architectural solution, built them one house to show them that these are the kind of the houses you're supposed to build in such an area of which if flood comes, you cannot be affected. And the good thing is that the flood came that time and the house stood still, but some of the other people moved away. And so my thing is, what can we do to ensure that these marginalized groups are able to even fund their housing to ensure that they are able to they're not able to be moved away from the calamities, especially the flooded ones. Sorry. Another one, what my sister there said about budgeting. With the youths, we need to go to these budgeting sessions when the county is doing them. I remember about 2 months ago, there was a calamity in Seme where it rained a lot of hailstorms and a lot of houses were damaged. And mind you, the county government came in and helped them with iron sheets. And out of the tens of houses, there were only 60 iron sheets that were brought. It is not even enough to build one house. So imagine how much was allocated for the disaster for that given period. And if we have that knowledge, we can demand more from the county when such disasters occur. Thank you.
Thank you. We are done with the questions. Now, I would urge all of us that all those questions you have, you see all those questions you have, please write them down. We have a session in the afternoon, which will be kind of brainstorming, and you'll be having a lot of time to discuss all that, because most of them is how will we be included in the policies, in the budgeting. So I'll urge all of us, when we go to those rooms, let's ask those questions and discuss and give recommendations and also our perspectives, right? Yeah, because we have that session ready. So I'll ask our speakers today to give us our final note, and also request Mitchelle to hold that question. Let's discuss it in the Advocacy Lab, because we'll have a lot of that in discussion. I'm not sure you have seen the afternoon session, how it will be like, right? So are you okay with that? Have you forgiven me? Or do you want to miss lunch? Let's miss lunch and do this. Let's agree all of us together. Nobody wants to miss lunch. So I'll ask all our speakers to conclude with one sentence each. And tell me, in one sentence, what does an equitable and inclusive climate future mean to you? In one sentence, what does an equitable and inclusive climate future mean to you?
Thank you, Emma. For me, an inclusive climate change means it's a future that guarantees gender equality, where no one gets to be excluded in development sectors. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Foday, please.
Yes, for me, I think it's all about how a future where every young person is there to build together with the matured. So every category of people in our societies are included. That's what it is to me.
Thank you. For Veronica, please, you can add, how does resilience for women, especially in loss and damage, looks to you?
Okay, so at first, it's a justice perspective demands that adaptations efforts be gender sensitive and inclusive, ensuring those most affected leads to solution. Also for women,
Women who have suffered the loss and damage.
Okay, so most women in poor communities may live through disasters. So they are always strong, and I guess they should just get empowered more. Yes.
All right, thank you. And Dr. Roy?
Well, I think the future should be led by the adaptive, community inclusive agenda, which drives positive climate change, while bridging the gap between ambitious expectations, gender equality, and economic stability and
Thank you so much. Do you agree with our speaker? Do you agree? So for the final thought from my end is, whatever you have right now, whatever is going on through your mind, I know we have done a lot of brainstorming, you're thinking a lot, you're feeling like you're burning because of the issue of being included in those spaces where they're making decisions. So now let's take these reflections forward as we step into the Advocacy Lab after lunch. Remember all that, let's participate fully. Let's be able to give our thoughts and mind, all right? So that we can have a well-interactive session in the afternoon. Please forgive me for those who have not aired out their views and questions. Next time, I'll ensure that if I'll be here, we'll be given 2 hours. And thank you so much to my speakers. You have done a good job. And although you have not concluded all what you had in mind, we'll always have a next time, right? And let's ensure that every one of us purpose to have equitable in all the spaces we have for climate justice, right? Thank you so much.